You shower every day, choose the best products, but still feel like something isn't right with your body odor. Doctors are calling attention to this. Some common bathing habits, especially among older women, may be causing the opposite effect to what you expect. Today we're going to reveal 8 mistakes that seem harmless, but may be leaving you with a bad odor, even after showering. Stick around until the end, because number 5 is more common than you think. Tell me where you're from and how old you are. If you're new here, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. When we talk about personal hygiene, especially in the female universe, it's almost automatic to think of products with intense fragrances. Floral soaps with sweet citrus or woody scents promise not only cleanliness but also a prolonged feeling of freshness and a pleasant aroma on the skin. For years, the cosmetics industry has sold us the idea that the more fragrant the product, the better the result. But is this really true? Doctors and specialists in dermatology and gynecology have been warning of a silent but increasingly common problem among women over 40, the excessive use of perfumed soaps, especially in the intimate and sensitive areas of the body. Behind the pretty packaging and enticing scent is a chemical composition that can be highly aggressive to the skin's natural microbiome. Perfumed soaps are generally rich in artificial fragrances, preservatives, and detergents that promote excessive foaming. These components, while pleasant to the nose, have a corrosive effect on the skin's protective layer. Frequent and prolonged use of these products causes dryness, irritation, and most worryingly, the destruction of the natural bacterial flora that protects the body against infections and odors. This is particularly sensitive in older women. Over the years, the female body undergoes several hormonal changes. After menopause, for example, there is a natural decline in the production of estrogen, a hormone that, among other functions, helps keep the skin hydrated, the vaginal flora balanced, and protects against infections. In this scenario, the skin is already thinner, drier, and more prone to sensitivity. The use of perfumed soaps in this context becomes even more harmful. And what does this have to do with bad odor? Simple. By destroying the good bacteria that naturally live on the skin and in intimate areas, these soaps pave the way for the proliferation of opportunistic microorganisms such as fungi and harmful bacteria, which, when they multiply, release volatile compounds responsible for unpleasant odors. It's a vicious cycle. The more women notice the smell, the more soap they use, believing that they are cleaning better, when in fact they are making the situation even worse. Another important point is that many women do not distinguish between the correct use of body soap and intimate soap. Some apply perfumed soap directly to the external genital area and in some cases even internally, which further aggravates the problem. The vaginal mucosa, being extremely delicate, is not designed to receive this type of substance. Ideally, intimate hygiene should be performed with warm water and, if necessary, with neutral specific products formulated to respect the natural pH of the area, which varies between 3.8 and 4.5, that is, slightly acidic. Regular soaps, on the other hand, tend to have a much higher pH, around 9, which creates an alkaline environment that is perfect for the growth of unwanted microorganisms. Many women also use scented soaps excessively on their armpits, believing that the scent will help combat sweat odor. However, the skin in this area is also sensitive and home to a microbiota that is essential for balancing perspiration and protecting against external agents. By eliminating these natural bacteria with the excessive use of perfumed and aggressive products, the skin reacts with inflammation, irritation, and yes, more odor. This happens because the body tries to defend itself from the imbalance, often producing more sweat or increasing the concentration of fatty acids in the skin, which intensifies the bad smell. There is also the psychological factor. Women who feel they constantly smell bad tend to seek out increasingly intense products, creating a dependence on industrial perfume and often masking important signals that the body is trying to send. Natural body odor is not necessarily a problem. In many cases, it is a warning sign that something is out of balance, whether it's an infection, a hormonal problem, or even a poor diet. By covering up this sign with strong perfumes and soaps, you miss the opportunity to investigate and treat the real cause. So what should you do? The medical recommendation is clear: less is more. Choose neutral, unscented soaps with a physiological pH, especially for daily use and on the most delicate areas. Avoid applying the product directly to mucous membranes, and never use body soaps on the inside of the intimate area. For the rest of the body, cleaning can and should be done gently, without rubbing the skin hard or applying several layers of product. Remember, the human body already has natural mechanisms to protect itself and keep itself clean. Our role is only to help, not to interfere. In summary, excessive use of perfumed soaps may seem like a quick and effective solution to bad odor, but in practice, it is often the real cause of the problem. By respecting the nature of your skin and understanding how your body works, you not only prevent bad odors, but also promote better health, comfort, and well-being. Taking a long hot shower seems to be one of the greatest pleasures of adulthood. For many women, especially as they get older, this moment in the shower becomes a true ritual of self-care, relaxation, and even emotional relief. It's that moment of the day when everything seems to stop. The water running down your body, the the warmth enveloping your skin, the cozy silence of the bathroom. It's almost like therapy, isn't it? But what few people know, and what medicine has increasingly warned about, is that these very hot, long showers may be doing more harm than good. Worse still, they may be one of the hidden causes of body odor, especially in older women. It may seem counterintuitive. After all, isn't bathing supposed to clean, refresh, and remove impurities? Yes, that is the basic function of hygiene. But what changes in this context is the temperature of the water and the length of time the body is exposed to it. When the water is too hot, above 38 degrees, and the shower lasts longer than 10 or 15 minutes, the skin begins to suffer invisible but profound consequences. The first of these is the removal of the natural lipid layer, i.e., the protective barrier composed of natural oils that the body itself produces to keep the skin hydrated, healthy, and protected against microorganisms. This layer is essential not only for skin health, but also for the balance of the bacterial flora, that invisible community of good bacteria that live on our epidermis and help us maintain pH balance, ward off fungi, and neutralize odors. When we take very hot and long showers, this layer is literally washed away. The result? Dry, vulnerable skin and an environment conducive to microbial imbalance, which can lead to the production of unpleasant odors. This problem worsens with age. Older women, especially after menopause, already suffer naturally from a decrease in skin oiliness due to falling estrogen levels. In other words, the body is already struggling to maintain its natural barrier. If, in addition, baths are too hot, the impact is even more severe. The skin quickly loses moisture, becomes dry, and the body, in response, may increase sweat production in an attempt to hydrate and compensate. But this sweat, when it comes into contact with unbalanced, unprotected skin with altered flora, can generate a bad odor and sometimes a strong, acidic smell that is difficult to control with just deodorants or soaps. Another point that needs to be mentioned is the vasodilation caused by the heat of the water. When you take a very hot shower, your blood vessels dilate, and this can cause increased sweating shortly after showering. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, minutes after a hot shower, you start sweating even without physical exertion? This happens because the body understands heat as an increase in internal temperature and reacts by trying to cool itself down. This post-shower sweat, if accumulated in underwear, armpits, or skin folds, can become a breeding ground for odor-causing bacteria, especially if the skin is dry, sensitive, and unprotected. In addition, long showers tend to be accompanied by excesses: more soap, more exfoliation, more products. This reinforces the problem discussed above, the excessive use of perfumed and abrasive soaps, creating a cycle where the skin is constantly attacked and its natural barrier is destroyed. And the more this barrier is removed, the more the body tries to protect itself, often with inflammatory reactions or increased oiliness in certain areas, which further contributes to the emergence of unpleasant odors. Areas such as the groin, armpits, feet, and skin folds are particularly sensitive to this process. In these areas, the heat of the water combined with the friction of the towel and excessive use of soap can create invisible microcracks, which favor the accumulation of sweat and the proliferation of anaerobic bacteria, those that thrive in humid and stuffy environments. It is these bacteria, mainly of the corrynebacterium type, that produce strong-smelling compounds such as ammonia and isovaleric acid, the main culprits behind strong body odor. The solution, therefore, is not to eliminate hot showers from your life, but rather to learn to use them in moderation and with awareness. Experts recommend that the water be warm, comfortable, but not scalding, and that showers not exceed 10 minutes. If possible, save longer, hotter showers for specific times, such as on cold days or after a stressful day, but avoid making them a routine. And whenever possible, at the end of your shower, try alternating the temperature to a cooler spray, helping to close your pores and rebalance your body temperature. Another important precaution is moisturizing after your shower. Since your skin loses a lot of water during the process, it is essential to replenish this moisture with a good body moisturizer, preferably neutral, unscented, and suitable for mature skin. This helps restore the natural barrier, soothe the skin, and reduce the effects of hot showers. Ultimately, bathing should be an ally to your health and well-being, not an invisible enemy. The water temperature, the time you spend in the shower, and the products you use make all the difference. Small changes in your routine can improve not only the health of your skin, but also eliminate the problem of bad odor naturally, effectively, and permanently. When it comes to self-care and intimate hygiene, especially among older women, one of the biggest challenges lies in the fine line between necessary care and harmful exaggeration. Taking care of your intimate area is essential, there's no doubt about that. But the problem begins when this care goes beyond the limits of what is healthy and starts to interfere with the body's natural biology. And unfortunately, many women, either through ignorance or the influence of cultural norms, make serious mistakes in this regard. One of the most common and silent mistakes is incorrect or excessive intimate hygiene, a habit that may seem harmless but is directly linked to the onset of bad odors, discomfort, and even infections. Throughout their lives, women learn that they must always be clean, perfumed, and presentable. This social pressure, which intensifies with age, often often leads to the indiscriminate use of vaginal douches, perfumed soaps, scented wipes, and even intimate deodorants. The goal, of course, is to feel fresh, safe, and confident. But what few know or forget is that the female intimate area has its own self-regulating system. The vagina, for example, is self-cleaning. That's right. It has the natural ability to keep its interior clean by producing secretions that eliminate dead cells and microorganisms. When you try to help this process with internal washing or excessive use of products, the effect can be devastating. Many older women intensify this practice over time, believing that the body, because it is aging, needs extra care. And while it is true that with aging, hormonal balance changes and some bodily functions alter, this does not mean that cleaning needs to be more aggressive. In fact, the opposite is true. The skin and vaginal mucosa become more sensitive, thinner, and more vulnerable. The drop in estrogen levels after menopause causes a thinning of the vaginal epithelium, reduced lubrication, and changes in pH, making the environment more prone to imbalances. It is in this scenario that excessive cleaning becomes the villain. Vaginal douches, for example, remove not only natural secretions, but also beneficial bacterial flora, mainly lactobacilli, which are essential for maintaining the acidic vaginal pH, protecting against harmful bacteria and fungi. Without these natural protectors, the vaginal environment becomes unbalanced and vulnerable to opportunistic microorganisms, which can cause infections such as bacterial vaginosis, candidiasis, and other conditions associated with bad odor, itching, and abnormal discharge. Another common mistake is the use of inappropriate soaps, often the same ones used on the body, which are full of fragrances, dyes, and harsh chemicals. The problem is not only the type of product, but also the frequency of use and how it is applied. Some women wash their vulva several times a day using sponges, rough towels, or even alkaline soaps that destroy the skin's protective layer. This practice dries out, irritates, and opens the way for small lesions that, even if imperceptible, act as gateways for germs and fungi, which in itself can cause unpleasant odors. And anyone who thinks that using wet wipes, intimate sprays, or perfumes helps mask the bad smell is mistaken. In fact, these products usually aggravate the problem. They mask the odor for a few hours, but continue to attack the natural flora and disrupt the pH, creating an environment conducive to the growth of bacteria that produce volatile compounds with a strong and persistent odor. This is the famous rebound effect. The more you try to eliminate the smell, the more it appears. Now, it is important to say, intimate hygiene does not mean lack of care. The secret lies in balance and respect for the body's natural physiology. The ideal is to wash the external part of the vulva with warm water and, if necessary, a pH-balanced intimate soap, preferably recommended by a gynecologist. Do not wash the inside of the vagina. It cleans itself, and don't overdo it. Once or twice a day is more than enough. In this case, excess is not synonymous with cleanliness, but with aggression. It is also essential to dry the area thoroughly after bathing, avoiding leaving moisture in the folds of the skin or between the hairs, as this promotes the growth of fungi. Cotton underwear, which allows the skin to breathe, is also an important ally. Avoiding synthetic or tight underwear, changing sanitary pads frequently, and sleeping without underwear from time to time are simple but powerful habits for maintaining intimate health and a natural, balanced odor. Finally, it is important for women to understand that the body has its own natural scent that does not need to be masked all the time. What needs to be combated is abnormal, persistent odor, which can indicate an imbalance or infection. And for that, the answer is not in perfumed products or intense bathing, but rather in conscious care, self-knowledge, and of course, professional guidance. If there is something strange, uncomfortable, or persistent, the best course of action is always to see a gynecologist. But in most cases, the secret to avoiding bad odor is precisely to do less, not more. Trusting your body, understanding its signals, and respecting its natural functioning are fundamental steps to living with better health, safety, and self-esteem at any stage of life. It may seem like a small, almost insignificant detail in your daily routine. After all, who hasn't ever gotten out of the shower in a hurry, quickly dried off with a towel, and gotten dressed without paying much attention? But the truth is that this habit, not drying your body thoroughly after showering, is among the most underestimated and at the same time most harmful when it comes to skin health, well-being, and above all, controlling unpleasant odors. Many women, especially older women, live with body odor without knowing that the root of the problem may lie in this simple routine moment, the way they dry or don't dry their bodies. After a shower, the skin is damp, warm, and in many cases sensitive due to contact with hot water, soap, and exfoliation. When this moisture moisture is not completely removed, it accumulates in specific areas of the body, such as skin folds, the armpit area, between the breasts, the groin, behind the knees, between the toes, and even between the buttocks. These areas are naturally more stuffy with less air circulation and are often neglected when drying. The result? Ideal environments for the proliferation of fungi, bacteria, and yeast, all microorganisms responsible for strong and persistent odors. This problem becomes even more serious with advancing age. As we age, the skin loses some of its elasticity, thickness, and ability to protect itself. Sweat and bodily secretions change in composition, cell regeneration slows down, and the skin's local immunity decreases. As a result, even small flaws in drying or hygiene become more significant and uncomfortable. That slight moisture left in the groin, for example, can turn into fungal dermatitis. Sweat accumulated in damp armpits can trigger an acidic odor that is difficult to control even with deodorant. Between the toes, moisture that is not removed can result in chilblains and flaking with a strong odor. And why exactly is moisture so harmful? Because water standing on the skin creates an anaerobic environment where certain types of bacteria and fungi thrive. They feed on dead skin cells and microscopic soap or sweat residue. During this process, they release volatile organic compounds, such as amines and fatty acids, that have a strong, unpleasant, and easily noticeable odor. The more this happens, the more sensitive the skin becomes, the more difficult it is to control the odor, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. In addition, constant moisture causes greater friction between skin folds. Overweight women or women with large breasts, for example, may suffer from friction between the wet skin of their thighs or under their breasts, leading to rashes, irritation, and fungal infections. In many cases, these problems are accompanied by redness, itching, and a strong odor, even with good hygiene. That's why the way you dry yourself after a shower is just as important as the shower itself. And here's a warning. Drying yourself thoroughly does not mean rubbing yourself hard with a towel, let alone using any type of fabric. The ideal towel is one that absorbs moisture gently, preferably made of cotton or microfiber, and is clean, dry, and in good condition. Using a damp towel that has been used several times without washing is practically transferring a cocktail of fungi and bacteria to your skin, completely nullifying the effect of the shower. Therefore, in addition to drying your body carefully, it is essential to ensure that the towel is always clean and, if possible, changed every 2 or 3 days. Another important point is time. Drying your body in a hurry, partially, skipping areas such as between the toes or behind the ears, is a common but dangerous practice. These areas discreetly accumulate moisture and, throughout the day, become sources of bad odor without the person noticing. Special care should also be taken when drying your hair, especially if it is long or if you tend to go to bed soon after showering. Sleeping with wet hair not only causes thermal discomfort, but also promotes the proliferation of fungi, such as dandruff or seborrheic dermatitis, which can cause odor on the scalp and even on the pillow. A good practice to incorporate into your routine is to use one towel for the body and, if possible, another smaller one for the intimate area or body folds. This prevents cross-contamination and promotes more thorough drying. For those who are more sensitive or have a history of fungal infections, it is also a good idea to use a hairdryer on a warm or cool setting to dry difficult areas such as between the toes or under the breasts. It is a simple but very effective technique for completely eliminating moisture without damaging the skin. In the end, it all comes down to paying attention to and caring for your own body. What seems small, like drying your body thoroughly, can make a huge difference in your health, comfort, and relationship with your own natural odors. Bad odor is not always a sign of poor hygiene. It is often a sign of poor, incomplete, or rushed hygiene. Correcting this does not require major changes or expensive products. It just requires awareness, habit, and a more generous view of yourself. The bath towel is such an everyday, familiar item that it often goes unnoticed in our self-care routine. It's there, hanging in the bathroom, ready to wrap us up after a warm, relaxing shower. But the truth is that this seemingly harmless object may be behind something that bothers, embarrasses, and directly affects the self-esteem of many women. Body odor. Changing towels infrequently is a common and silent mistake that over time can compromise skin health and intensify unpleasant odors, even when personal hygiene seems to be up to date. Let's start with a fact that few people know. Even after a single use, towels begin to accumulate moisture, dead skin cells, soap residue, sweat, and natural microorganisms from our bodies. And when they are hung in a humid and warm environment such as the bathroom, this material becomes a perfect environment for the proliferation of fungi, bacteria, and invisible mold. This happens because these microorganisms feed on organic matter and develop rapidly in poorly ventilated places. If the towel does not dry completely between uses, and this is very common, it becomes, without us noticing, a contaminated fabric. Now imagine repeating this cycle for several days. A woman gets out of the shower clean, dries herself with the towel which appears to be okay. And that's it. However, that cloth already carries an invisible load of germs that, when in contact with clean, moist skin, end up recontaminating the body. This contamination does not need to be extreme to cause disease, but it is enough to interfere with the skin's natural flora, alter its pH, and contribute to the emergence of bad odors, especially in more sensitive areas such as the groin, armpits, and feet. And when we talk about women over 40, 50, or 60, this care needs to be even more specific. Mature skin is thinner, drier, and has a lower defense capacity against external aggressors. In addition, many women at this stage deal with hormonal changes, decreased collagen production, and a greater predisposition to skin infections such as folliculitis, dermatitis, or fungal infections. Using a contaminated towel, even if it looks clean, on this type of skin is like rubbing a germ-covered cloth on a fragile surface without realizing it. The question of how often towels should be changed varies from person to person, but dermatologists are clear in their recommendation. Change your bath towel every 2 or 3 days at most. If you live in a hot or humid region, sweat a lot, or have more sensitive skin, this interval should be even shorter. And it's not enough to just change them. You have to wash them properly. Using mild soap, avoiding excessive fabric softener, which can leave residue, and ensuring that the towel is completely dry before storing or reusing it are essential steps to keeping your towel truly clean. Another point that is often overlooked is the habit of using the same towel for the entire body, including the intimate area and feet. These areas naturally accumulate more moisture and microorganisms. When you dry these parts with a towel and then use the same fabric on your face or back, for example, you are spreading these bacteria to other areas of the body. Therefore, it is a good idea to use 2 different towels, one for the body in general and another exclusively for the intimate area and skin folds, or at least start drying the cleanest and driest parts of the body, such as the arms and torso, and leave the most humid areas for last. It is also important to mention that the appearance of a towel does not always reflect its actual hygiene. A towel may look clean, smell nice from fabric softener, and still contain colonies of invisible fungi. This is exacerbated when the towel is used by several people in the household or is hung in places with poor air circulation. And when we talk about bad smells, we are not just talking about external odors, but also what happens at a microscopic level on the skin. The alteration of the bacterial balance caused by this contaminated fabric contributes to the production of volatile compounds that generate body odor, that sour, musty, or strong smell that often appears even after a shower. In addition, some women have a habit of using the same towel after the gym or to dry their face throughout the day. When this towel is already damp or dirty from previous use, it becomes a vehicle for transmitting bacteria to the pores that are dilated after exercise or to the sensitive skin of the face, causing acne, bad odors, and even infections. That is why, if possible, it is best to have specific towels for each occasion: shower, gym, face, and wash them frequently. In short, prolonged use of the same towel without proper replacement and cleaning turns this care item into a silent villain. It is an easy habit to adjust, but one that makes a huge difference. Many women, by simply changing their towel frequently and washing it properly, report a significant improvement in their skin health, a feeling of freshness, and above all, a reduction in body odor, which previously seemed to have no explanation. Taking care of your body goes far beyond expensive soaps or sophisticated perfumes. Often, it is the everyday details that have the greatest impact on our health and well-being. And the bath towel, although it seems simple, is one of those details. So the next time you get out of the shower, remember, body cleanliness also starts with what you use to dry yourself. In our busy daily lives, amid the intense routine of tasks, obligations, and taking care of the house, family, or work, showering often becomes automatic. You get in the shower, lather up the main parts of your body, rinse off, and get out. Seems sufficient, right? After all, you feel clean. But what few people realize is that, over the years, certain areas of the body begin to be ignored or forgotten during hygiene. These are small, discrete areas that don't usually attract attention until they start to emit unpleasant odors or cause irritation and discomfort. And this, especially among older women, can be directly linked to the bad smell that seems to linger even after a shower. These forgotten areas are not dirty by nature. In fact, they are parts of the body where the skin tends to be tighter, with folds less exposed to air and therefore more prone to the accumulation of sweat, sebum, dead cells, and moisture. Over time, this buildup creates the ideal environment for the proliferation of bacteria and fungi, the main culprits behind strong and persistent odors. And the most curious thing is that often body odor does not come from the armpits or groin as many people think. It comes from these neglected areas, which end up going unnoticed, even in people who consider themselves extremely hygienic. Let's start with behind the ears. This area, seemingly small and harmless, is one of the most prone to accumulating sweat, cosmetic residues, and even particles from the environment, such as dust. As it is close to the scalp and the upper neck, naturally oilier areas, the skin behind the ears can develop a sour or rancid odor, especially if not cleaned regularly. And since many people wash their face and hair but forget to scrub this area with soap, the smell sets in and lingers. Another often overlooked spot is the nape of the neck. When we wash our hair, shampoo and conditioner run down this area, and many people believe that this is enough to clean it. But in practice, it is necessary to rub the back of the neck lightly with your hands or a sponge, especially because hair product residue, sweat, and natural skin oils accumulate there. Over time, this can cause an unpleasant odor and even skin irritation. Between the toes is another classic spot. This is an area that is difficult to reach, especially for women with limited mobility or joint pain, which is common with advancing age. However, precisely because it is covered most of the time, inside socks and shoes, and is a place where there is a lot of perspiration, this area requires care. Lack of proper hygiene between the toes favors the appearance of chilblains, fungal infections, and a strong odor, reminiscent of mold or stagnant moisture. Worse still, even if you wash your feet, if you don't dry between your toes properly, the problem will intensify. Body folds, such as under the breasts, between the thighs, on the inner arms, and even in the abdominal area, especially in women who are overweight or have abdominal flaccidity, are also critical areas. These areas accumulate sweat, natural skin secretions, and sometimes small residues of synthetic fabrics from underwear. If not washed and dried properly every day, these areas develop a characteristic odor, often sour, slightly sweet, or even pungent. It is a smell that arises discreetly but intensifies over time, especially on hot days or after physical activity. The belly button area deserves special attention. Although small, this cavity can retain dirt for days if not cleaned properly. The accumulation of dead skin cells, sweat, and unrinsed soap creates an environment conducive to bacterial growth. Some women report an odor coming from their belly and are unable to identify the source until they realize that their belly button simply hasn't been washed in days or even weeks. Belly button odor can be intense and persistent if neglected. Another often overlooked area is the lower back and coccyx region. Because it is behind the body, this area is often poorly washed or quickly rinsed without proper scrubbing. However, it is directly connected to the base of the spine, where sweat and, in some women, even sebaceous secretions from the head and back accumulate. In addition, women who sit for long periods of time, whether due to work or age, tend to sweat more in the buttocks area, contributing to odor in this area if careful hygiene is not practiced. Now imagine, if several of these areas go unnoticed day after day, week after week, it is not surprising that even if you shower regularly, your body still gives off an unpleasant odor, and in many cases, these areas are not even visually dirty, which reinforces the idea that appearance is not enough to ensure hygiene. It takes awareness and intention during your shower. It's not a matter of obsession with cleanliness, but rather of paying attention to your own body. The solution is simple but powerful. Consciously include these forgotten spots in your shower routine. Use a soft sponge or your hands with mild soap and spend a few seconds on each of these areas. At the end of your shower, dry them thoroughly and carefully. Over time, this will become automatic and your body will respond. Bad odors will diminish, your skin will improve, and you will feel more comfortable with yourself. Hygiene isn't just about washing what's visible. It's about understanding that the body is a whole and that every fold, every corner, every detail deserves care. Bad odors are often not a sign of apparent dirt, but rather of inattention. And by correcting this, you regain something precious, the comfort of feeling good in your own skin.